Hey everyone, it's day 5 on the show, and today we hack our Twitter timeline. It's going to be awesome. Hey everybody, and welcome to day 5, where we are going to populate our Twitter timeline. So where we left our situation yesterday is we had our basic Angular 2 RC5 deployed app, which had a very simple timeline. In fact, it had no timeline, just static text. It's time for us to put some work and energy into that. So the first thing I'm going to do is actually download a few avatars. So I'm going over to uifaces.com, downloading a whole bunch of avatars that are available to use for free. And I am copying them into our, you'll recall we had a public directory at the root, which is where all our static assets are put, and they get copied into our dist directory. So I've created an avatars directory here, and I've just put a bunch of these in here that I've just pinched off that site. Okay, so and they'll get copied by the build process into dist avatars, so we can use them later on. Okay, so we have some avatars. Let's get to work on our timeline. Well, our timeline's got pretty much nothing in it at the moment, so we need some tweets that we can actually publish out here. So let's create that property in our backing class. So in our feed component, I'm just going to declare a new array of tweets here, and inside here I'm just going to put a bunch of JavaScript objects. We'll tidy these up later when we put this in a nice little feed service, but for now let's just hack some in. Let's give it some text to say this is my legend tweet, and I'll say author is Glenn, and then maybe I will add something, another tweet to iterate, and I'll make this by Karen. Okay, so I've got my tweets in my backing component now. So how do I get these guys into the HTML? Well, we've done stuff like this before when we've interpolated, but what we need to do here for this particular backing property is we want to actually iterate, then interpolate. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to keep this segment that I've got here, and what we might do is that for each of these, we are going to put a whole bunch of segments one after the other, and we're going to go ngFor, and we're going to say let tweet of tweets. So this is saying find the tweets collection on your backing property and iterate over it each time interpolating into this tweet object. So that tweet object is going to be one of our JavaScript objects. So let's now put something in here. Maybe this is going to be a strong. That's going to be tweet dot, is it author that we had? And then it's not very semantic, but it'll do for now. And for our body, we'll put in our tweet.text. Tweet.text. Is it a body? I think we had actually. All right, so are they the right properties? Text and author, actually. Let's text and author. Okay, let's save that. So we now are iterating over this guy. We're outputting our author in strong, and then our tweet text is outputting here. And if we go into our actual running app, we see, fantastic, we've got the author and we've iterated over these. All right, that looks good, but it's really not that funky looking. It doesn't look like a rocking timeline. So if I go into semantic UI, I know that there's a whole bunch of components you can use for these kinds of things. And I think the comment one looks pretty great. So this is pretty nice, right? We'd like to have this kind of layout where we had, avatars and authors and contents and stuff. And if you go into one of these, you can click on the view source button here, and it'll let you know exactly the kind of layout you need. Now this is a static layout. We want a dynamic one. Now I've prepared one of those earlier, and I'll put it in the matching blog post and show notes for this. And for now, I'm just going to copy and paste it, and then we'll talk through it. Okay, so okay, I've pasted that in now, and even though there's a lot of text going on here, there's actually not that much new stuff. So we've still got our tweet of tweets. It's just we're in a comment class now. We have an avatar, which I'm going to dereference in an avatar kind of property. I've got an author property that I'm going to dereference, and a date, a body, and a favorites. Okay, so there's a whole bunch of properties I don't have at the moment on my actual text if I'm going to output this thing. So I'm going to just, again, get rid of some of that standard text here and give ourselves something a bit more meaty to work with. So same deal, same set of properties. I'm going to expand it out to have it a bit more realistic though into what you might have here, Alt-Shift-F to format. So same deal, I've got a body, I've got a date, I've got retweets, I've got favorites. I've added these new properties for retweets and favorites, which I'm just going to make a list of users that have retweeted or a list of users that have favorited. And I've added a date property, which is a JavaScript date. And I've added this new avatar property, which is just going to be a path that I dereference to a JPEG. So I've got a whole bunch of programming quotes in here that I've ripped off the web and pasted them in. So let's just save that. And in our feed component, I'm going to dereference that avatar as /avatars/tweet.avatar. So I get my JPEG. And then the rest of this markup is literally just copy and pasted out of that sample page that we looked at. So let's just refresh that now. Awesome. Well, this is looking way better now. So we now have a nice little avatar here. We have a ridiculously long date that probably something needs to be done with. We also have a whole bunch of these that are now outputting the favorites and retweets and a reply button, which doesn't do anything just yet, but we'll have a think about that next time. So first of all, let's tidy up this date. Now, another aspect of Angular that I want to introduce to you today, and this is a fairly short one, which is just looking at pipes. So pipes are a particular type of formatting that you can apply to any given output property. So there's a whole bunch of built-in ones, for instance, JSON or 2 uppercase, 2 lowercase, but there's also a date one. So I'm going to actually just pipe that through the date filter and give that a save. And that will just reformat that date, which is kind of cool, but you know, Twitter's a bit more real life than happening at that kind of level. So what we can also do with these is we can provide some kind of customization, as you might expect. So we can have like, you know, hour, minute, second, day, month, year, that kind of thing. So these directives, these pipes are built in, and but you can also write your own pipes if you want to do custom formatting and whatnot. That's already pretty great. So I wanted to introduce you next to one more of the built-in directives. So we did our ngFor where we did tweet of tweets, but like, what do we do if there's just no tweets? Like if I was to take this whole thing out, and we save that, it'd be kind of cool if we could have something display here to say, hey, no tweets just yet. Well, there is another component built-in directive that you can use, which is an ngIf. So we can actually apply this right here. So we can say ngIf and provide whatever it is, the expression that we want to put in here. So for instance, if there's tweets.length, so there are some tweets here, we can put that there. Or we might have some other div, which is going to be something, which is going to say there's no tweets.length. Might even be a better way of doing this, but this is the way I've been learning so far. You can do this with styles as well, of course, but we'll talk about a little bit of that in the next episode. There are no tweets. Any tweets here? Awesome. So if there's no length to the tweets, so there's nothing in our array, then we get this kind of deal. But then as soon as we go into the array and we paste in those tweets, then suddenly we get that ngIf directive firing and we get our nice little timeline here. So that's all for today. So today we just covered those two important items of ngIf and ngFor. We learned about built-in directives. We also talked about pipes and how you can pipe output data through these pipes to reformat it. And we also talked about just accessing a property that's a list and how we can do that on our backing class and output it in our component. So tomorrow we'll do a bit of event handling around this, and we'll add our input box where we can actually start typing in some data that we can bind to a backend and add to our timeline. It's going to be awesome. Look forward to seeing you then.